Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am sorry that I have been away for such a long time, but I think that I'm kind of back. I hope you guys enjoy this cute tutorial. So I will start this tutorial by cutting out my skirt length first, which is 22 inches. It's actually 21 inches, but I am giving it a 1 inch sewing allowance, which sort of made it 22 inches. After lining that, I will cut it out. So for my waistline, I will measure well, basically what you need to do with your waistline is divide your waist circumference by 4 and mark that, and then go down by 8 inches for your hip. I think 8 inches is usually the standard hip depth. So you go down by 8 inches, and on your hip line you divide your hip circumference by 4 again, and then mark, and then give it 1 inch sewing allowance. I sort of missed my 1 inch sewing allowance on my waist, so I had to go back to put that in there. So 1 inch is usually the best, I think, inch to use, just in case you know, just to have enough basically. And then for my hem, I'm using 10 inches plus 1 inch sewing allowance. The 10 inches is supposed to make it free to walk in, because I will eventually add my cascade. So I will join my waist to my hip, and then I will join the hip to the hem of the dress and cut. What I'm doing there is actually shaping the hip side so that it doesn't look pointy. So for my back skirt, I will take out 1 inch allowance. This is my zip allowance, because the dress is, I'm going to be putting in a zip. So after taking out that 1 inch from my waist to the hem of the dress, I will line that with a chalk so that I can see it properly, because this is a print fabric. And then I will place my front skirt on the chalk line, not behind it, but right in front of it, and then cut out my back skirt with the help of my front skirt. So I will go back in and open my zip allowance and pin it together, because I'm not yet ready to sew and I don't want to misplace any pieces, because usually when there are fabrics lying around, you sort of misplace the ones you already cut. So for my midriff, I will be going in by 9 inches plus 1 inch allowance, and I'll be going down by 8 inches. So that's a 10 or 8 by 10, and then I'll cut that out. For my back, I will be doing the same thing that I did with my zip, because the back will also have a zip, the back midriff. So I will take out 1 inch before putting my front midriff right on that chalk line and cutting my back with the help of my front piece. So I will pin down and open my zip like I did with my skirt. So for the front, I will go to my center front midriff and I will go down by half an inch. And on my side seam, I will go down by about 1 inch and sort of go inwards with 1 inch as well, so that when I'm connecting my center front to my side, I know exactly what lines I'm working with. So I will use a curved ruler to connect my center front to my side, and then I will trim out that top piece because we no longer need that. I no longer need that. So what I'm going to do is cut out a second piece. This is going to act as a self-lining. You could use any other fabric to line, any similar color to line, but I prefer to use the same fabric to line. And then I'm going to go back and cut my back lining as well, because I will be adding a boning to my midriff, and I really need it to be steady and comfortable when I wear. So I'll be cutting a 20 by 10. Is it 20 by 10? It should be, right? Yeah, a 20 by 10 inch rectangle. And I will divide my center front, which is the 10 by 2. Half on top is, sorry, half up is 5 and half down is 5, and then I'll connect that to the very top of the opposite end, and I will trim out the top of that entire rectangle because I only need the bottom part of the rectangle. And that's going to be our bra top fabric. So for my cascade, I will fold my fabric in 4, and then I will place my measuring tape at the very tip and mark 6 inches all the way around, and then cut. And so because I want that what's the word I'm looking for? I want it to fall in such a way that the front is short but the back is long. I will make my front 7 inches and my back 14 inches, and then I will gradually reduce my numbers. I will put 14 inch on one end and gradually reduce my numbers. Now what you don't want to do is freehand your drawing or your designs, because then you will fuck up, I think, which I did. So yeah, so now it has that small to big effect, and I will be sewing this to the lower portion of my 22-inch skirt, which I didn't show. I don't know why that happened. I joined my back piece, my back midriff in my skirt. I left my zip open because I will still work on my straps later. So for my front, I stitched my center front and my side seam down, and then I did a long stitch along the under bust. This is gonna help me gather my fabric easily. Until my under bust is the same measurement as the midriff that we cut. Then I will pin that top to the midriff, and if you look closely, it's supposed to be a face fabric and a lining, but I was just catching the lining only and not the actual face fabric. But when I went to my sewing machine, I made sure that I cut everything. You're not supposed to leave anyone out, basically. You're supposed to sew the 3, the top, the face, and the lining. So when I went to my sewing machine, I made sure that I cut everything. So for my strap, I cut out a 30-inch strap, which eventually I realized was way too long. It's a 30-inch long strap and a 1-inch wide strap, and then I folded it and sandwiched it between each other. So you fold one half, you fold the top down first, and then you fold one half in, fold the second half in, and then sandwich it together. And I will be inserting that strap 5.5 inches from my zip allowance. Then I will sandwich the strap with my midriff So if you notice, I didn't sew the sides of my my midriff, my back midriff yet, because I knew I was gonna have to sandwich my straps. So after doing that, now I can sew my zip, which is the next step. After ironing that down, I went and I stitched my invisible zip in, which I don't, this is not really my favorite thing to do. I really hate sewing zips, but you kind of have to do it, I guess. So I created 5 channels by sewing down my face fabric and my lining together. So what I did was cut out 5 bone-ins. The very middle one is going to be longer than the rest, because the middle, if you remember, for my midriff I took down half an inch, and then on the side seam I took down 1 inch. So the sides are going to be at least 1 inch shorter than the middle, or half an inch shorter than the middle. So I don't really know maths. I don't know how I just calculated that. But the longer version, you have to put the longer bone in the middle. And when you're cutting your bone-ins, don't cut the exact length of your midriff. Just give enough space so that you can sew that midriff to your skirt. So what I'm doing here is burning and molding my bones so that it doesn't poke me, because it can get really prickly. And if you can look closely, the bone-ins are sort of bent in a way that can be weird. If I put all my bone-ins into my fabric and it's facing upwards, I'm gonna look pregnant. And if I make all my bone-ins face downwards, I'm gonna look pregnant again. So what I'm doing is alternating my bends. So I put one bone-in inwards facing upwards / heaven, and then the next bone-in I will make it face downwards / hell, and then the third bone-in I will make it face upwards / heaven, and then the fourth bone-in I will make it face downwards, and then the fifth bone-in I make it face upwards. And then I eventually use my hands to sort of straighten out the bone-in so that it lays flat eventually. Thank God it's a plastic bone-in and not an iron bone-in. This is easy to manipulate, so it was very easy for me to just do that, and it eventually came out really flat. So, and also the alternating of the bone-in bends probably helped as well. I really hope you guys understand what I'm saying, because I'm confusing myself. So pin the skirt to the top part of your waist and sew. So I went and I overlocked all my edges. Now I will try and stitch my front to my back. So what I did here was I measured my bust, my under bust, my waist and my hip. Remember that I added 1 inch allowance to every single thing as my sewing allowance? But I went back and I measured everything again. Okay, so for example, if my hip size is 44 inches, 44 divided by 2, and that 2 is my front and my back, would be 22. So now that I measure my hip, I got 24. So the difference is 2. Then I'm gonna add that difference on either side of my seam. Then I will stitch that, I will do that to my back as well, and then stitch everything together. So I eventually took my dress home because I couldn't finish it at work, and that's me sitting on the floor. I'm pinning my top. Since I have already overlocked it, I don't have to fold it twice. So I folded it just once and I pinned my top in a way that created a channel, because I'm still gonna put my straps in. So after creating the channels, I went to my sewing machine and I stitched it down without closing my channel. I have to give it at least a 3/4 inch gap or 1/2 inch gap, because the strap isn't really that much. So I didn't record me attaching my cascade to my skirt, but I did attach that, and then I went to hem it. So now I am feeding my straps through my channels, and I'm using a toothpick. If you have a bobby pin or a safety pin, I think that would probably be like the best option to use. That would be a better option to use basically. So I used my toothpick to feed my straps through, and I adjusted it. By the way, when you're putting in your straps, I think that you should always put it from the back and then, you know, transfer it to the front and see how it fits you, how you like it, and then you can adjust. It's easier to adjust from the front than the back. And that is the end of that tutorial. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I have been sort of perfecting my sewing skills. I'm obviously not an expert, but at the same time I'm not a beginner. So yeah, that's the end of this tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye.